Monday's shaping up to be a big day for the COVID rules locally that are going to impact our lives. Colorado loses a one-of-a-kind leader, former Governor Dick Lamb, likely best remembered for convincing this state to turn down the Olympics. Seems a good time to ask, is the effort to bring the games here totally over? Flooding and mudslides along I-70 and in northern Colorado. A nuisance proves its potential danger, trapping families on the interstate.
Can you imagine, having a couple kids or something up there with you for 13 hours, no food or water or anything?
And after a year of pandemic talk, the last thing we need is a hygiene lesson. But there's a story behind the name of that Colorado town. It's so fresh and so clean. Next. You want to know where Colorado's COVID restrictions are headed in the near future? Watch Denver. And today, the city declined to endorse the recommendations from the CDC of indoor masks for everybody. Denver and its regional partners have often led and had other areas in Colorado follow. So that was noteworthy today, that the city was not willing to recommend the CDC guidance. Yet Denver also dropped a contradictory note, saying that there's an announcement coming Monday that's going to bring Denver in line with others in the region. Others like Tri-County Health, which did endorse the CDC's indoor mask rules. Something's got to give between now and Monday. Former Governor Dick Lamb has passed away at the age of 85. Only one other governor served in office as long, 12 years. It's a lifetime of service for a political figure unlike any other in Colorado history. Dick Lamb captured the public's attention, leading the effort to reject the 1976 Olympic Games over concerns about the costs, impact on nature in Colorado, and sprawl. He took on highly contentious issues over his career, from abortion to the environment, immigration, to the cost of aging, and Dick Lamb often took positions at odds with his Democratic Party. Today, Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers, a Republican, called Lamb politically fearless. Democratic Senator Michael Bennet called Lamb a visionary leader. Dick Lamb was uniquely involved and at the center of all the big discussions in Colorado for generations. As a governor, as a professor, an author, as a conversationalist and a controversialist, and as his family noted today, as an engaged grandfather who loved his country, his state, and his family. It's difficult to see Dick Lamb really being at home in either the Democratic or Republican Party today. And you know what? Most Coloradans choose not to associate with either of those parties. So Dick Lamb was, and is, uniquely at home in Colorado. His brand of politics is steeped into our politics in this state: socially liberal, fiscally conservative, a fierce environmentalism, and an openness to unusual solutions. Shakespeare's words echo at the end of a number of great lives: "I shall not look upon his like again." Colorado may never see the likes of Dick Lamb again. And no matter what your politics, what a loss that is. So Dick Lamb faced down two attempts to bring the Olympics to Colorado, once in the 70s and then again in 2018. Both times he won. He got voters to say no to taxpayer funds being used to host the games. Our Marshall Zellinger looks at if there's going to be a third try.
I hope that people see that as kind of a capstone to his legacy.
Larry Ambrose recruited Dick Lamb to help get voters in Denver to support a 2019 proposition barring city tax dollars from funding an Olympic bid, similar to the 1972 statewide amendment that barred the state from levying taxes or using funds for the purpose of hosting the 1976 Winter Olympic Games.
They always say that it's not going to involve taxpayer money. And I've got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn if you believe that.
Ambrose will continue to further Lamb's fight that no taxpayer dollars fund a 17-day athletic event. A few years ago, Denver explored a bid for a future Winter Olympics, but the United States Olympic Committee supported the bid from Salt Lake City. In a podcast called CityCast Denver last week, Robert Cohen, the chair of the Denver and Colorado Olympic and Paralympic Exploratory Committee, said, "Maybe there's an opportunity to partner with Salt Lake. I still believe the winning bid from the United States should be a multi-city bid, where you don't have the economic cost burden on any one city."
International competition and peace between nations is what we want. Let's figure out a place for them to do that on a regular basis so they don't come in and just run roughshod over our cities and our countries.
Let's say there could be a bid without taxpayer funds. What would be the taxpayer benefit?
Well, that committee report detailed improvements to I-70, at least from the metro area to the mountains, not where those mudslides are. It details an Olympic village split between Denver and the mountains, thousands of homes that, Kyle, could be converted to affordable housing as soon as the 17-day athletic event is done.
All of this strikes me as how prescient Dick Lamb was in the 1970s, that his view of the Olympics is now the view that even the IOC understands, that is the public perception, that the Olympics are a way for places to shovel money into a furnace.
He saw it in the 70s. He also talked on that CityCast Denver podcast recently before his death. He said it became corporate, and he said if you made a $10 million mistake in the 70s, I mean, that's something you cannot recover from anytime soon. And look at other cities that have just skeletons of buildings that were built simply for 17 days and then never used again.
Olympics has changed its pitch because of that prevailing criticism. Marshall, thank you. So let's talk about that. If you were to envision an Olympic Games in Colorado, what comes to mind? Do you think that things have progressed to the point that we could responsibly manage the games to our benefit, or would they be, as Dick Lamb always said, a big boondoggle and a drag on the state? I'm particularly interested in hearing from you on this tonight, because we know that people are watching this show from every corner of this state. Good chance that an Olympic Games will be quite dispersed around various places with various impacts. And I want to know what you think. How would an Olympic Games in Colorado impact where you live? Email next at 9news.com. Use the hashtag HeyNext on Twitter. I read each and every response.
If you have a canoe, a paddleboard in the garage, might be handy getting around Denver tomorrow. Already 1.5 inches of rain in the city, an amazing light show. The lightning outside is crazy. We're under a flash flood watch tonight, tomorrow, and probably Sunday. Tropical moisture is beginning to shift east into the urban corridor areas, where we're going to see slow-moving thunderstorms produce rain day after day. 1 to 2 inches of rain tonight and again tomorrow and Sunday. The flash flood warning for Larimer County has canceled out, but it's going to be reinstated for many of the burn scar areas again tomorrow. 3 to 4 inches of rain has fallen in and around Larimer County up toward Fort Collins and Wellington, with thunderstorms that have dropped 1-inch diameter hail. 3 to 4 inches of rain to the north, 1.5 inches to the south, and more rain coming into the Denver metro area tonight. And so, as we watch these slow-moving thunderstorms lift to the north and east out, they will return to the area tomorrow afternoon. Early, we're going to have rain early in the day, returning in the afternoon, and travel on I-70 will be difficult, if not impossible. So you need to call ahead and plan ahead if you're headed to the high country. Flash flood watch for heavy rain and lightning overnight. Our low 61. Tomorrow's high will be in the 70s. Goodbye, July. It's going to feel great, but the rain will be a big part of the story for Saturday and for Sunday. Then we dry out a little bit Monday and say hello to August, with temperatures a little more comfortable in the mid-80s for the middle part of next week, Kyle.
Thank you, Kathy. People near Glen Haven in northern Colorado were told to leave their houses tonight because of the threat of flooding there. Sheriff's office within the last 10 minutes just downgraded mandatory evacuations to voluntary. Meanwhile, to the west, more mudslides hit I-70 in Glenwood Canyon last night, this time trapping a lot of drivers and took quite a while to get them out. CDOT says 108 people needed assistance getting out of the canyon after more rain sent debris from the Grizzly Creek burn scar down onto the interstate. CDOT had closed 70 earlier Thursday night, but opened it back up when a flash flood watch expired. Storms came back, and CDOT says it was minutes later that the debris started to flow. A man named Andrew Emerton's parents were stuck in that mess with limited cell service to call for help, and he said he had a heck of a time getting updates from CDOT.
To be honest, I feel awkward like tweeting at them, like that. I know that's like the common route now to get any sort of response. That felt awkward. So I went to their website and went to their live chat, and they just gave me some like, they should try these alternate routes. And I was like, no, they're stuck between two mudslides.
Alternate route was climbing at that point. I-70 through Glenwood Canyon is going to be closed at least through the weekend. CDOT said that when folks got stuck, they were able to get about 70 people to a rest stop near Dotsero. They had food and water waiting for them there, and then got them out of the rest stop and on their way back home around 5 o'clock. Amtrak is affected, so the Amtrak tracks are on the other side of the river from the interstate. They've temporarily shut down the California Zephyr service through Glenwood Canyon because of the weather situation, so Amtrak shut down between Denver and Grand Junction right now. Every newscast in town is going to tell you about Team USA in the Olympics, and that's great, and we got you there. Plus, Team Liberia on next. They are the ultimate underdogs. We talk about them each night. Liberia is one of the poorest countries on earth, and they are chasing their first ever Olympic medal. And tonight, the first Liberian athlete to compete advanced to the semis. So play that sweet national anthem. Ebony Morrison ran in the first round of the women's 100-meter hurdles. She's all the way in lane 8, all the way on the left side of your screen. Top 4 finishers from each of the 5 heats advanced to the semis. Come on, Ebony. She finished 6th with a time of 13 seconds flat. But wait, there's more. Rest in peace, Ron Popeil. The 4 fastest times outside of the 20 automatic qualifiers, they also advanced to the semis. And wouldn't you know it, Liberia's Ebony Morrison squeaked in to grab that final qualifying spot in the semis. So let's learn more about the Liberian track star hurtling her way into our hearts. She now lives in Miami, grew up running against and beating the boys at her elementary school. Her mom, Stacy, was a track star at Morgan State University. Ebony started her college career at Auburn, and then family tragedy. When her mom passed away from breast cancer, she transferred back home to the University of Miami. She's about to give up on track because she thought she'd reached her peak and it was all over. But she kept at it, and now she's on sport's biggest stage, advancing one step closer to Liberia's first ever medal. They make us show this every night. We know it's going to be at 0. This is not a surprise, but not for long if Ebony Morrison has anything to do with it. Next, viewers pool $5 donations each week in order to, together as a group, boost up some great nonprofit in Colorado. That's how Next viewers have raised more than $4 million through their Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign since last year. And you all are off to a great start this week supporting the National Sports Center for the Disabled and its adaptive sports programs in Colorado. In just 2 days, you've raised almost $13,000 to help NSCD deliver winter and summer sports programs for Coloradans with disabilities and injured veterans. You probably know their skiing program up at Winter Park, but they've got biking and kayaking and rock climbing and horseback riding, all with the idea of letting people accomplish something they thought was impossible in their lives. Text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. I'll send you the link to check out their work. If you want, you can join me and a bunch of other Next viewers helping a longtime Colorado-based nonprofit change lives through access to sports. Colorado's water issues are our issues, whether we live in the largest city or the smallest town. Their lives being upended by drought, and at this pace, all of us will feel the impacts. And no Friday passes on Next without your good news making headlines.
The fact that he's out here and still competing and still trash talking and all that kind of stuff, it's my good news.
Good news on the local TV news. Who would have thought? Next. Colorado's climate has warmed to the point that it's heating up some of our rivers and streams. I get it. Climate change seems big and abstract. Let's talk about real impacts. Anusha Roy heard from Coloradans already changing their lives for lack of water.
Denver Water started getting an ask from a whole bunch of people along the Colorado River to help cool things down.
With fish becoming really stressed or not being able to survive.
So they started releasing water from reservoirs.
Just to give you an idea.
But when it comes to an issue as big as this, it is an all hands on deck kind of problem.
It's below the Ennis pump and ditch system.
Paul Boucher's family owns a ranch in Grand County.
On June 30th, when it has water.
He's working on both water conservation and helping aquatic life while trying to survive himself.
This year, we're going to be struggling, coming to even make it with enough feed to even get into fall time. July 30th, when it has not received any irrigation water for the season, we only have about a third of a hay crop from what we historically have had. Most of us in my family have second and third jobs to support, our way of making a living.
Boucher says Denver Water helped divert supplies to them.
Made some sacrifices, for some specific West Slope benefits, not only to my family, but the greater river system.
It's an example of how interconnected all of this is. This drought map is from 2020 until July of this year. The red and brown shows extreme and exceptional drought. And there is a lot to unpack here. Not only is more water evaporating, our snowpack is impacted, some of our water sources are spread too thin and our wildfires are impacting our reservoirs.
It means we're filling up our reservoirs with rocks, dirt, and debris.
More people moving here means more people are relying on an already stressed water system. And the number one thing that will be protected is turning your tap on and getting drinking water. So right now, the folks bearing the brunt are like Boucher, the agricultural community, and tourism relying on water. For Next at Night, I'm Anusha Roy.
The experts Anusha talked to recommended the taxpayer money be used to rejuvenate areas that have burned or are likely to burn in the future. And then, of course, there's the usual ask of all of us as individuals to conserve water where possible. U.S. women's soccer team has a Monday match against Canada, and there is a Coloradan on each team. Our Ariel Orsuto tells us about what these exceptional women represent.
Monday morning's soccer semifinal will feature two Colorado friends facing off as foes. Lindsey Horan, a midfielder from Golden, is a usual starter for the United States. On the other side, the 2012 Colorado Gatorade Player of the Year from Valor Christian is Janine Becky, forward for the Canadian national team. So how did we get here? Well, Becky was cut from the under-20 U.S. national team, and thanks to her dual citizenship, she was scooped up by the other home nation. More importantly, how did we get two Colorado players from the same graduation year to end up on the biggest stage? Well, that's thanks to policy and investment. Soccer is not a new sport, but it is new to American women. Before Title IX was created in 1972, NFHS reports only 700 girls participated nationwide. Fast forward to the first World Cup in '91, well, you could tack on 120,000 to the front of that original number. You can argue that Horan and some of the other top players on the U.S. team, they never played for their high school. But here's what the Title IX did do for them. It offered them an opportunity to play the sport they loved equitably in colleges, to earn recognition, and to now be the inspiration for the next generation. So when the Olympics come back in only 3 years, don't be surprised when you see the participation numbers increase at the youth level, the competition get even more fierce at the national team level. And don't be surprised when I tell you there will be even more Colorado talent representing the Stars and Stripes.
It's Friday. If you are new to Next, each Friday for 256 Fridays now, almost 5 years, we've turned the good news of everyday Coloradans into headline news on your television. Photojournalist Tom Cole has our 257th edition of your Friday Good News from a birthday party in Fort Collins.
My good news today is Old Bill. A 90th birthday doesn't happen for a lot of people, and of those who are fortunate enough to see a 90th birthday, they're not out playing basketball the morning they turn 90.
Oh! The first time I played with Bill, he grabbed my shirt, blew me a kiss, and called a foul on me.
My good news is we're all alive.
He's been playing basketball since he was 5 years old. He's still hard to guard. And like I told you earlier, he's dumb as a fox.
My good news is the camaraderie amongst everybody. We're just a bunch of young boys trying to play basketball.
Got 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. That's good news.
My good news is, I guess, that I've been able to hook up with a bunch of good guys to play basketball with. They love to play basketball.
The fact that he's out here and still competing and still trash talking and all that kind of stuff, it's my good news. I look forward to playing with him every single time he's out here. He's just fun to play with. He'll come by you and he'll get right in your face and act like he's going to kiss you.
My good news today is, other than spending it playing basketball with Bill, is my wife and I are celebrating our 45th wedding anniversary tomorrow.
My good news is that I still get an opportunity to play with these guys, and I'm hoping to get to play with them for 10, 20. I'm hoping I can call you back when this guy turns 100 and he's out here playing. Well, thank you.
Happy birthday!
All right.
A small town with an odd name.
Is this the first time anybody's ever asked you to do a story about hygiene?
You know, it is.
The pandemic has had hygiene on our minds, so we set out to learn the story behind the name of the town in Colorado.
It makes you proud of the town and the name Hygiene.
Good, clean, hometown pride. Next. The pandemic reminded us hygiene can be the difference between sickness and health. As our Mark Salinger and photojournalist Ann Herbst are rediscovering Colorado, they stopped in a town built on that idea.
It's a treasure. The whole little town is a treasure.
In the middle of a global pandemic, there's only one community in Colorado.
Hi, how are you?
Whose name was embraced by people all around the world.
Hygiene. Hygiene, Colorado, 80533.
Jill Ellis sees it on every envelope that comes into town.
I don't even think about it.
Jill's been the postmaster in Hygiene for 17 years.
It is the cleanest post office in Colorado, probably.
Fitting for a town with the cleanest name around.
It was a little strange saying that I was going to be the postmaster of Hygiene. It just seemed a little weird until I learned how it got its name.
Is this the first time anybody's ever asked you to do a story about hygiene? You know, it is.
If there's anyone who would know how Hygiene got such a hygienic name, it's Eric Mason.
Well, I've been interested in history since I was a child. My parents tell me that I was fascinated by a poster of the U.S. presidents over my crib.
Eric took that childhood passion and made it a career. He's the curator of history at the Longmont Museum.
You know, I think one of the things that fascinates me is we learn the roots of the situation today. So it's like, well, we now have a town of hygiene. Why is that? Where did that come from? And oh, that came out of a public health crisis. Wow.
140 years before COVID-19 became a concern, public health was focused on tuberculosis.
So in 1881, a local minister named Jacob Flory founded a sanitarium, and he called it the Crystal Fountain Hygienic Home. And pretty soon people shortened that to the Hygiene Home.
TB patients from all over flocked to Colorado. They hoped the dry, clean mountain air would cure their incurable disease.
Pretty soon people started to call this area Hygiene, and Reverend Flory actually filed for a post office to be built here in 1883. So that seems to be when the town was officially designated as Hygiene.
As Hygiene, and everywhere else, faces a different health crisis, the town near Longmont keeps its small size with a three-way stop, a couple of businesses, and its post office.
But this is just a little treasure, this little post office.
The post office where Jill works still stands.
But let me check it over here for you real quick.
But the Hygiene house was torn down in the 1920s. Yet the name lives on.
It makes you proud of the town and the name Hygiene.
There were a number of TB sanitariums up and down the Front Range. This is the only community that I know of that was named for its sanitarium.
The cleanest name in Colorado history, born from the same challenges we face today.
Were you surprised when we called you?
A little bit. Thought, different kind of angle on things, isn't it?
After Hygiene in Boulder County, Down and Dirty with your feedback about a Colorado Olympics next. Not surprisingly, a crowd of people who just watched the Olympics were pretty positive about the idea of bringing them to Colorado. Though Rich Downing wrote from the Western Slope, there's no way the public would see any benefit from such expenditures. Former Mayor of Dillon, Kevin Burns, wrote in, said that in the listening sessions he went to for the Olympics, he thinks the concerns were addressed. Said it would be our ability to prove we can do big things.